So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I decided to unplug my watch experience, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get at it. So when I first got my Apple Watch years ago, I think it was the Series 2 or Series 3, I ended up selling all of my mechanical watches because I ended up wearing the Apple Watch so much that I felt like I didn't need the money invested in those watches anymore. Fast forward to today, and I have changed my mind a little bit, specifically for a couple of reasons, but there are some pros and cons to going back to a mechanical watch that we need to talk about. So first off, one of the big selling points of an Apple Watch is that you get all of your alerts, whether it be texts, email, body measurements, everything comes straight to your watch. But even if you go through all those notifications and silence the ones you don't need, you really find that you get interrupted a lot during the day. So what ended up happening is I get interrupted a lot during conversations, conference calls, and just regular work with my watch going off constantly telling me about emails, text messages, and just other info that I might not need to answer in that next 5 minutes. So when I started silencing a lot of those notifications, the actual functionality of the Apple Watch and those notifications really kind of lost a little bit of value. So I was finding that I was using it as a regular watch more than I was using it as an Apple Watch, just purely because I was silencing notifications. So then making that transition back to a mechanical watch wasn't as big of a deal because I was silencing those notifications anyway. And what ended up happening is my day was a lot less interrupted as I was going throughout the day. I was more efficient with emails, phone calls, and other things that I needed to get done because you weren't constantly looking down at this screen wondering if you had another text message, another email, or something else you had to handle. And then there's the second thing. No matter which Apple Watch you get, whether it be the Ultra or the regular series, they all look the same. So when you're wearing it on your wrist, even if you start changing out bands and other aspects of the watch, you are really wearing the exact same thing as the majority of people you run into during the day. Now, I'm not a guy that really dresses up a whole lot. My wife makes fun of me a lot because all of my clothes look the same. But the one thing I do like to do is stand out a little bit when it comes to what I'm wearing on my wrist. I'm not a big guy that gets into a lot of different shoes and other aspects of fashion, so this is the one thing that I like to be a little bit different with. And when you go back to mechanical watches, you can really be different than everyone else out that's walking around with something on their wrist. Where with the Apple Watch, it's really a piece of tech. You're wearing a computer screen. There's not many things you can do to make that stand out or look different. And a lot of times you kind of want it just to hide in the background. If you're dressing up for a fancy dinner or going to a wedding or something else like that, the Apple Watch is not really necessarily something you want to stand out. When you go back to a mechanical watch, it can be a piece that sets you apart from the rest a little bit. So it was nice to get at least a little bit of fashion in my life going back to mechanical watches and showcasing chronographs and some other styles that I find to be really cool. There's also the aspect of mechanical watches that it is an engineering masterpiece in a lot of ways. So if you're a tech geek that loved an Apple Watch, you probably also will like the whole automatic movements, chronographs, and other aspects of mechanical watches that you could still geek out on without having to have a screen on your wrist. And then lastly, one of the other positives about this is that it is another hobby. Now, I have said, like I did in the Casio video that I made last week, that I need another hobby like I need a hole in the head. But the reality is that collecting wristwatches can actually be a lot of fun. And what I found is a lot of people that got into the Apple Watch and got used to wearing something on their wrist are now transitioning to mechanical watches and are enjoying the hobby and enjoying both sides of it, enjoying having an Apple Watch, but then also a little bit of unique side with the mechanical watch. Now let's get into some of the negatives that I had that actually going back to a mechanical watch. And the first one is a big one, and that is my workouts. The reality is I got an Apple Watch with cellular service so that I could go out and do my runs and listen to music and not have to carry my phone with me. Now, obviously, I can't do that with a mechanical watch, so I find that I still grab my Apple Watch Ultra to go do my workouts. The inability to just pop in my AirPods and have my music playing on my watch is something I just can't get away from. Now, the second part of that too is that the Apple Watch does a lot of tracking with your body when it comes to temperature and other vitals that I really did not want to get away from. So when I stopped wearing the Apple Watch Ultra on a daily basis, I had to find another mechanism to be able to record that. And for right now, I'm using this Ultra Human Ring. Now, it tracks every single one of the stats exactly like the Apple Watch. Some people actually say it might be a little bit more accurate just because of where it is worn on your hand. But the reality is that my wife calls me a gangster because now I've got 2 rings on one hand where I didn't before. So what I do have to do now is wear an additional device to be able to track all of those stats, which I do find very important. And then, like I said, I have to go wear the Apple Watch Ultra when I do my workouts to get that data so I don't have to carry my phone. So when you do go back to a mechanical watch, you find yourself finding these alternatives of getting around the fact that you're not wearing that watch every day. and it could be a little bit cumbersome, and a lot of people might not want to wear an additional device just to be able to wear a mechanical watch. And then the third part is, and this was a little bit hard to get used to, is that you feel like you miss out on texts and phone calls a lot. If I lay my phone down in my office and go walk around and talk to people, there is no alert that's telling me I'm getting a text message or a phone call. The reality about this is that you shouldn't have to answer everything within 30 seconds, and maybe we've conditioned ourselves too much to immediate answers because we always have a device on us that is alerting us. So what I did find is there are a lot of times when I would start looking at my wrist trying to figure out if I had alerts when it was obviously not a screen there anymore. But the reality of the situation is that no one is missing me not answering them in the first 5 minutes, but it does get a little bit weird at first when you feel like you're missing out on a lot of stuff because you don't have that constant reminder on your wrist. At this point, I think I really like a blend of both. Each are a specific tool for what I need at the time, and I really like wearing a mechanical watch as my daily wear now, and then using the Apple Watch for those specific instances where I need it. I find that I'm more efficient throughout the day without a screen on my wrist, and I do love the individuality and the overall engineering of a mechanical watch on my wrist. So guys, I want to hear what you think down in the comments section below, and until then, on to the next one. Thanks guys, see ya.